Nickelodeon is known for all sorts of shows and things that are geared towards kids and the family. And today we're talking with a former Nickelodeon leader who is sharing what it was like reaching both the mom, the parents, and the kids. This is my part 2 conversation with Rob Garay. The previous episode, we dug into his book around the psychology of marketing to women. And on this one, we're going to dig into his previous experience from his days working at Nickelodeon as a leader. Rob Garay is a seasoned marketing exec with more than 15 years of experience working across a variety of companies and industries. He's currently the head of marketing and communications at Prevalon Energy. It's a joint venture under Mitsubishi Power Companies, and he leads their marketing strategies that position the company as a leader in the energy sector. And across his career, he's driven membership and revenue growth metrics, whether that has been at Prevalon or in former roles being a leader at the Orange County Bar Association, Hilton Worldwide, SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, and Nickelodeon Suite Resorts. Welcome to Marketing with Empathy, the podcast for brands that want to target and engage moms. Moms influence or control 85% of all household purchases, making them a lucrative market to figure out. But many brands struggle to connect with moms through their content. Even if moms aren't your only target, they're an important audience for so many brands. I'm your host, Sarah Panus, and I have more than 20 years of experience working with brands of all sizes, including Sleep Number, SheFit, American Express, Starbucks, LegalZoom, and more. So tune in here for ideas that'll get your products and services into the hands of more moms who need them so your brand can effectively reach more moms and drive sales. Thanks to your support, this podcast is in the top 5% of all podcasts and a proud member of the Marketing Podcast Network. So let's hear from our sponsors and then jump right into discussing Rob's Nickelodeon days, how they approached reaching moms, and the key things that moms and parents cared about that the company needed to think about to better engage them and get them to want to say yes to different Nickelodeon experiences.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe.
Okay, Rob, as we think about Nickelodeon, we think about obviously content and experiences for kids. So give us a little background. What did you do when you were at Nickelodeon? What was your role?
Yeah, so I was a part of something called Nickelodeon Recreation, which kind of oversaw a lot of the Broadway shows, Nickelodeon Cruise at the time, Nickelodeon Hotel, all the ancillary things outside of just the production of the shows. Obviously, those are the brands and everything that you work with, but it's all the secondary items that they do with it. When I started there, I was there for a couple of years, but started doing social media marketing, and this is 15-ish years ago. So this is really the start of Facebook as companies are coming on, using Twitter and things like that. This was before TikTok or anything else. This is back when you had to use FBML language on Facebook pages. Once I started doing social media, we started to grow that area and went into digital production and design there. So doing graphic design, video production, website design with them, and really just growing into more of a digital space for that piece of it versus what they were doing on the production side.
I had no idea Nickelodeon did the Broadway shows and things. Are those shows in New York or is like shows on cruise lines and things like that you were just mentioning?
It's a little bit of both. So they used to have a
Oh,
SpongeBob show years ago, and then they did an off-Broadway show where they toured around the country.
okay.
There's a few other ancillary things that they would do, like similar to Disney on Ice. They would do something similar with Nickelodeon characters. So it was those types of things.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And obviously, you're reaching kids and you're talking to kids through all of this. But to get to kids, you have to go through their gatekeeper, which is their parents,
Yep.
right? And moms are a huge decision maker when it comes to things for her kids. And
Yeah.
so that's what we're going to talk about today as we think about her and the parents and your experiences and learnings and how you were successful at being able to do that. On this show, we talk about marketing with empathy, and I talk about it being how do we, as brands and as marketers, better connect with our consumers, our audiences, like heart to heart and mind to mind, having
Mhm.
that connection. And you also had mentioned marketing with your head and with your heart. So very much in alignment in
Yep.
terms of how when you said that, I was like, yes, that's what I say too. So first, can you give us an example of how you intentionally really thought about reaching moms via their head and their heart?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of times when I talk about marketing, it's the head and the heart for the single consumer. When we're looking at something for children, it's really two consumers that you're having to go after. So you're splitting your model in a sense because you have the head and the heart of the marketing creative for two separate concepts. So when we're looking at like the head for the mother, it's really going back at the informational. What do they want to know? What does they want to look after? So if it's a product placement, safety for the kids, the age range for the kids, is it educational for them? What type of things that will be able to engage with them and how they can then interact with their child and brings that a little bit together. When you're looking a little bit more on the heart side, that's really where the family comes into play. When I was at Nickelodeon, we did a contest that was a family photo contest. You got to stay for a week at the Nickelodeon Hotel, all these different experiences and everything like that. And you just had to submit a family photo. 99% of the people who submitted a photo was the mother because it's about them bringing the family together. A lot of times they make the vacation decisions. While there might be input from the father or kids or anything else, but the mother is the one who's really making that deciding factor. So it's how you brought that together into one single place. And then that's where it goes back to the head again, because all the information that needs to go into those contests and what they're doing for it.
That's a great reminder, obviously, why I'm focusing and niching in on moms because moms do control and influence so many decisions. And so, from your perspective, obviously, I love that about caring about how they bring the family together and how you create that experience and how you give them the information to make it easy and make it exciting and make them want to do it to with that motivation around bringing the family together. I think that's a great statement. And you were also sharing from a site experience perspective from the website, how you think about how you talk to moms. Can you go into more examples about that?
Yeah, so Nickelodeon was very tricky because we had a lot. There was almost one website, but it had two mini sites to it. You know, there was one for the kids because there are sometimes kids would go online and want to play games or learn, you know, look at different characters, things like that. But then you had the informational side of that secondary piece as you go further down that funnel. So when you think about it from a high level perspective, it was really super engaging, kind of, you know, in flair and everything to really get a child or someone in captivated to what they're doing. But as you went deeper into the site, went further down a funnel path of whatever that process might be, that's where it got a little bit more niche, a little bit more fine-tuned and informational. Because at that point, if it was for a product, if it was for a vacation, if it was for to go see a show, at that point the child went to their mother and said, "Hey, I really want to go see X, or I really want to buy Y," and then the mother's going online and researching. They don't care about SpongeBob jumping on the screen or slime coming down the page. They want to know the price, the where it's at, what I'm doing, and everything else. So it really was hard because you had to look at two different mindsets for one product in a lot of ways.
That is interesting, like of every single thing that you were doing, you had two very distinct audiences you had to think about at the same time.
Right.
And so from an information perspective, I think of safety. You had mentioned that earlier
Yeah.
of that being one of the information points that they're looking for. From your experience, like what kind of safety hazards do parents think about, or what were some of the things that you guys wanted to make sure that you addressed based on your learnings?
Yeah, so how it influences behavior on the child is probably one of the first things because a mother isn't going to purchase something or do something that could harm them or get them in trouble or replicate something else that they don't want to replicate, right? You don't want them interrupting you now or having bad behavior because of this. So that was really hard. When I go back, I worked at a theme park for a little bit. You never want to show anyone on a roller coaster raising their hands because that's a safety concern. You're supposed to hold on to your lap bar. So this is kind of similar vein that you don't want to show a kid doing something negative because even though they might like it, that then has a negative experience on the mother. You also have to be careful too with blurred advertising. How you blur the boundaries between real life and the fake. The difference between reality and fiction and sci-fi in the sense of, is it made up versus the reality of what the toy does. You'll see a commercial that has a character that flies across the screen, and a kid may think that's going to happen in real life. But reality is it's movie magic of taking something across the screen. Then there's a little disappointment of when the mother tries to explain this to the kid, and then it has a negative effect. So you want to avoid some of those things too. As a mother, then you feel like you let the kid down because now they're disappointed from it.
Yeah. And you're making her job harder because then, oh crud, now I have to explain this whole thing and my kid's really disappointed. And you just don't need to add another layer of complexity to a mom's life by any means.
Exactly. And then obviously anything inappropriate. And you want to make sure that it's not having any sort of alcohol or anything like that where it could have any sort of negative impact on both the child or the mother.
When it comes to marketing to women, especially moms, what insights have you learned in addition to what you just have shared that may help others listening get their products or their services into the hands of more moms that need their products and services?
Yeah, I think authenticity is probably one of the key things. Typically, moms value genuine interactions, right? They think about their family, they think about their kids. So anything that offers a real life experience or that they can replicate in real life is a key driver for them. Obviously, leveraging the platforms that they're on. When I was at Nickelodeon, like I said, 15 plus years ago, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, those are all huge platforms. They're still huge today. But TikTok is now, Instagram, there's Pinterest. There's a lot of other platforms that you want to make sure you're engaging across all of them in the sense. Convenience and value. You just mentioned this of you don't want to inconvenience the mother that they now have to explain something to their child that could be disappointing. But you want to make sure that whatever you're getting out of this is that they see the value in it and that it makes it easy for them as well. You don't want to make anything hard. And then, of course, I think we all know this, but people are brand loyalty. Mothers are brand loyalty. So building that relationship and how you continue to build that brand and the loyalty between those obviously is going to be hugely successful for anyone. There's also certain things I would say not to do. Anything stereotypical. You don't want to stereotype a woman or child or anything in any sort of one way or another because you want to keep it general and make sure that anyone can see themselves in that role. Don't oversell. That's also probably a key thing from a psychological standpoint. If you make it really specific to that, you want me to buy this, the less likely I am to. And then if you get feedback, if mothers are saying they like this or don't like this, as anything we do as marketers, we should listen to feedback. We should make adjustments and test things and change them over time.
A follow-up question then on your don't oversell, because from my perspective, the clearer you are on the ask of what you want them to do, the more likely you're going to get that action to happen. So can you explain more about, from a psychology perspective, what you mean by if you ask, is it asking too much or is direct? What from your experience? I would love to dig into that some more.
Yeah, we call it the marketing jargon, right? Or the marketing fluff. Don't put too much emphasis into adjectives, into the fluff around it, but be direct into what you want them to action and do without the hard sell of it all. You don't need to say, this is the best product because X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, you've already told me what the product is. Now tell me the next phase of it.
Got it. Because then from like the consumer perspective, then from your experience, it becomes more commercial and unbelievable if they're like trying to oversell it through a lot of fluff and jargon and additional details. Okay.
It becomes disingenuous at that point.
Well, anything else from your Nickelodeon days that I should ask you about, but I haven't yet, that would be good to know. I get this glimpse inside of how you guys did it.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of trial and error. Just like anything in marketing that we do, you have to A/B test things and take a look at things. And you're going to fail a little bit. There was a lot of things that we did that didn't work. There was a lot of things that we did that did work. It helps to have a brand like Nickelodeon to really engage people because of all the great properties that they have under their IP. But you're going to have to test things out, make sure you adjust as you go along, and move quickly and keep adapting. And I think those are probably the key things to be successful.
Okay, tell us then how people can connect with you.
Yep. So either my website, www.robgaray.com, or my LinkedIn, which is just Rob Garay.
I love hearing behind the scenes of different brands. I hope you got something out of that in terms of hearing how a big powerhouse like Nickelodeon is thinking about all the facets of how they're reaching moms and the kid and the different factors they have to think about with each. If you haven't heard the previous episode, part 1 with Rob Garay, check that out. It's the one right before this episode. And in that one, Rob and I talk about a different topic. We talk about his book, Marketing Minds, a look at psychology and marketing. And we get into some insights he's learned around the psychology of marketing to women. So it's an interesting talk where we get into things like adjectives and colors and more. So check that one out if you haven't already. And until next week, God bless.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkisporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.